Namaste guys, welcome back to Filmy Bites with UV, a show where we talk about some wonderful filmmakers, review, rate their work in our show. But before we start, I would like to request all of you to hit that subscribe button and get all updates as we post them. With that note, let's get right into the show. The very first movie that we are going to review today in Filmy Bites with UV is DEFILE. DEFILE is a short movie about abuse of a woman. With a screen time of 5 minutes 12 seconds, the short film is hosted on Nagraj Sadasiv YouTube channel. The film begins with establishing this young man who looks troubled and disappointed in life, and he is walking around. On the other hand, we see this young lady who is struggling with something and has a lot of wounds on her face. Very sad, she takes out a diary and starts writing something. And as the story continues, the lady takes out a knife. Looking at it, she starts running out of her house, reaches a spot where she decides to cut herself and die. And here, the guy walks into a spot where he finds a diary. Now what happens to this girl? Will the guy save her? Are we even talking about the same timelines? If not, how is this story going to end? Is a beautiful ending given to this movie. Now moving on to the technicality of the film. Directed by Mr. Nagraj, yes, the film sure had a deep thought. But then, when it comes to portraying the thought into visual format, I think director was totally carried away by his emotions, forgetting the logic of the film. I personally felt makers were a bit confused between abuse and sexual abuse, because somewhere I could not understand or could not notice any specific scene that will even partially show me that this lady was a victim of sexual abuse. However, it was very clear that she was abused physically, and somewhere to my understanding, physical abuse is completely different from sexual abuse, which was mentioned in the title of the film. However, actors were very convincing and put life into their characters. Moving on to the camera, cinematography and script both are handled by Bhavana Gaikwad and Mr. Nagraj. Yes, the film really looks good and artistic. However, they had a huge scope to experiment with the camera, which camera department did not utilize properly. However, I should also say that this particular blank spot was well utilized by editing. Editing done by Nagraj, yes, exactly knew what he wanted. As he also was the director of the film, he clearly visualized what are the shots that he wanted and executed it properly. The movies like this, which play with two different timelines and which are presented in such a way that they are happening right next to each other, is not an easy task to handle. However, director did his work brilliantly. I must say the editor did his magic to take this movie to the next level. In short, the script had a great deep thought. However, the script was totally driven by emotions and not by the logic. That could be a small disconnect for the audience. If only the makers could concentrate a bit more on the logic, the film would have reached to the next level. Hoping they are going to give us much logical scripts from next movie, waiting for the next flick. Here at Filmy Bites with UV, I rate this film a 3-star in our show. All the best.
DEFILE. DEFILE is a concept which says about sexual abuse. In this movie, you see there are two different persons who are a little bit disturbed, and they have their own backgrounds of why they have done it. When they come together, what happens? What is the story behind them, or how these are related to the concept is the story. The concept is very sensitive part, but I think the director didn't live to that expectation. When you say that particular concept, it was not, maybe like the director wanted to express few things, but maybe due to some kind of compromise he had to do those. That was kind of feeling I felt when I was watching this flick. There was, apart from that, I felt there were a lot of confusions going around with the characters. The characters, in the sense like the characters were confused about their part. The emotions which has to be carried over in these kind of high drama or high sensitive kind of flicks didn't live to that expectation, which really dropped that particular energy in that particular film. And there are a few instances, like few tips, like if you're showing a beer bottle, generally you tend to blur those kind of things. Those are the few things which could have been added. They could have concentrated a little bit on color corrections, and few going with good angles, or trying to experiment few things. With this, I rate DEFILE a 1.5 out of 5. Good luck.
The next movie that is in our review list for this week is Pakhi. Pakhi is a Hindi social awareness short film related to lockdown. With a screen time of 5 minutes 7 seconds, the film is hosted on Unfold Memories, a YouTube channel. Honestly saying, the film script is not that new. However, the little innocent face of this actor will not let you feel bored till the end. Her acting is brilliant. However, the concept is very small that I don't think we can disclose it here. Now, if you want me to explain the complete story in one line, I would say it is an abstract visual of freedom, and it shows relationship between Pakhi, the little girl, and Mithu, her parent. Now, moving on to technicality of the film. Film is written by Mr. Vinay Prajapati and directed by Mr. Praveen Prajapati, who did a great job. However, I must say the film's storyline or the concept is so old that we have at least a million movies based on the same storyline which are shot during lockdown about lockdown, which will disconnect your audience, and frankly there is no such strong element that can hold your audience to watch this movie till the end apart from the baby's acting. I must also say I was quite disappointed with the audio, which had his noise every time an actor delivers their dialogue. That really disconnected me from the visual. Now that we spoke about visuals, let's talk about camera. Speaking of camera, DOP Shubham Prajapati did a decent job. However, most of the times I see camera was static, where they had a huge scope to try experiment a lot of shots, but then I see there was absolutely no experimentation even attempted. Even when we speak about editing, there were very basic shots and there was no experimentation done when we talk about colors, cuts they chose, or even the transitions were a bit disappointing, because when your story is so baseline, you have a million number of things that you could have attempted at least, and you chose to play this very safe. That, I think, was a backfire for the movie, because this is a short film and your concept is not really that new. This was the only point which could have took your movie to the next level, and I personally think you shouldn't have played it safe. You should have experimented a lot, so that audience may expect something fresh from you guys. To summarize, I personally think the team wanted to see if they can make a concept with minimum skills and minimum equipment, and yes, they did pull it off. However, I personally think that they could have made this much better with the same equipment what they had. Hoping to see much better outputs from this team. Here at Filmy Bites with UV, I rate this film a 2.5 star in our show. All the best.
Pakhi. Pakhi is a lockdown concept which is told in a beautiful way. This, right from the frame one, the director ensured that he is directly going to the particular message which is going to be conveyed in this movie. And the clever work is that the montage shots which were being shot between a bird and the same feeling which is happening around with the child little girl. Those kind of things are really a wonderful part. When you direct a movie with a little children, it's a big task because you have to hold them up. There are a lot of challenges. You have to take more time to take shots, take some more time for shooting everything. So those are the difficult parts which the director could have come across, but it was done in a neatly packed manner. Lesser character which is required in this movie looks good. They could have concentrated a little bit on color corrections, which could have enhanced the tone of the movie. Maybe few camera angles could have been tried as well. Sounds was little bit okay. Apart from that, everything had done a decent job. With this, I rate Pakhi a 3 out of 5. Good luck.
Now that brings us to the foreign film review of the week. And today's movie is DISQUE. With a screen time of 26 minutes and 44 seconds, the film is hosted on Saif Eden Riago YouTube channel. Now basically the film starts with this guy who is running away from the shooter who is trying to kill him. Finally, when the goon shots him, he falls on the ground. And we see another mate of his gang comes to meet him. Luckily, this guy is not seriously wounded. And as these two gangmates are talking to each other, this fellow cleverly escapes from there. And as story progresses, we come to understand that there is this huge gang who are underground mafia of this city who are planning something. And this guy accidentally recorded some evidence against them. And if this evidence comes out, there is a fair chance that this mafia will be destroyed. And to control this, the mafia leader starts to target this guy. Now as story progresses and comes to end, we'll understand few questions like who is this guy? How did he get that evidence? What is that evidence? How is this fellow going to survive such a huge mafia? How will he end this game? Will the mafia let him go? If not, how will the story end? Is a brilliant masala movie that we see. Now moving on to the technicality of the film. The film is written and directed by Saif Eddie Reguero. Film really is very interesting. However, I must say there is nothing new in the film. It is like any other mafia movie where the conflict is a common man who has an evidence. Most of the film is completely predictable and really misses the essence because of the actors. The actors' age group is not matching to the gravity of the film. It looks so unnatural that these kingpins or the gang members look so young. They are not built for such a character. Even when the character is so powerfully written, I somewhere was not convinced with the actor's age group or the actor who has such a strong role is looking so meek. And one more thing that might be a reason for disappointment is the opening of the film, where we already know that hero was not killed and he escaped from the villain, and most of the film again goes back to the flashback showing us why that happened. See, when I know that the guy is not going to die, I do not have the eagerness to watch all his backstory. However, whatever they did was a good attempt, but then I think the way they executed the movie could be much interesting if only they could have started it from the beginning and not from somewhere in the middle where I know the twist of the film. That was a bit where an audience may disconnect from your movie. The second big thing that disconnected me from this movie is the actor. When I say actor, I'm not talking about their acting skills, but I'm talking about their age group. Actors were brilliant trying to convince their audience. However, when you see the age group of this so-called mafia, I see they were too young. At least I think Kingpin was too young to be a Kingpin. To reach to that level, I would say he must be well built and a bit old. I see the Kingpin and his gang was too young to accept that they are mafia of the city. That might be a second point where I got disconnected from this movie. However, I say this was a very good attempt. But then, the makers still are way away from being perfect. Now moving on to the camera of the film, DOP Mr. Yusuf El Gurwai did a decent job. We may see some very nice top angles and dark shots in the movie. However, I see there was a huge scope for the low angles and there was a lot of focus play that could have been implemented in the film, which I see was not attempted. If only they would have implemented these shots, the movie would have got a new getup altogether. Now, editing and VFX is done by director himself. It is a great thought as it really gave a new getup and enhanced the visual feel of the film. Talking about visuality, I really love the way they have edited it and color graded it. But then when we talk about VFX, there was a small issue with the VFX having a sync with SFX. SFX was too loud and it was not going along with the visuality of the film. As for example, if you see the scene where this shooter is shooting this guy, we see only few bullets going on, but then when you hear the audio, it looks like multiple rounds were fired. When this happens, I was wondering if the shooter who is following had a different gang who were shooting him from the other end, which was not the case. So when the SFX is over highlighted, that will destroy the visuality. Frankly, visual is exactly what SFX should follow, not the other way around. When the sound effects grow more and your visual is not going with it, it will damage entire mood of the particular situation. That is exactly what happened, and unfortunately that is your first scene, and that will damage your audience viewpoint. To sum up, this is a nice mafia film that is attempted with a bit old story and execution and some very nice acting skills. But there are some factors that I think you should be concentrating on. Hope you are going to concentrate and make much better outputs than these. Here at Filmy Bites with UV, we rate this film a 3-star in our show. All the best.
DISQUE. It's a gangster movie which starts with a guy who is there is a guy who is running away from a lot of bullets which is being fired again over him, and there is a couple of people who is chasing him, and you suddenly find out that there is not a couple of guys, there is a big gang who is after him. Why so? What is the mission of it? What will be the end of the story is the remaining part. When you see a story overall, it was a good effort made by the entire crew. Let it be the technicians, let it be the camera work, the locations, the costumes, everything did their part. But when it comes to a gangster, those faces or the assemblance of those particular people needs to look some kind of manly thing, or somewhere like a John Wick or somewhere like that, which I felt was a little bit missing. If they could have given some subtitles to it, the people who don't know the language can also come to know what exactly is happening around in this movie. These were the few things which were the drawbacks and net positive signs on it. But overall, when you see it, it was a decent effort made by the filmmakers. With this, I rate the short film a 2.5 out of 5. Good luck.
So guys, that brings us to the end of the show today. Hope you liked this week's episode. If so, this is the right time to hit that like button and share button, and share it along with all your friends and family. Because somewhere we believe that there is this one filmmaker out there with a great film that we would like to review and rate, and want you to watch this movie and encourage his skills. And just to remind you, you can watch all these movies that we just reviewed by hitting the link that is given in the description below. Do watch all these movies and write to us what do you feel about these movies. And if you are a filmmaker yourself and wants us to review your film, all you have to do is go to our description box below, and there are our social networking links given where you can hit that and inbox us your movie along with a poster saying that you want us to review your film in our show. We are going to take it in our review list, watch it personally, and we are going to review your film. You can also be a part of our WhatsApp group where we have enormous talented filmmakers who keep discussing about filmmaking, updating your skills, making a social circle, and you can also work with them and get to know filmmaking and update or upgrade your skills. With that note guys, till we meet next week, this is me Uday signing off. Namaste.